Hi everyone, so today in this video I'm going over the books I read in January and February. I have them written down so I can go off the order that I read them so it's a little bit more accurate, but I'll just get straight into it because I actually read about 12 books over the course of 2 months, which is not really normal for me honestly, so anyway, we'll get into it. I start off with Shadow and Bone by Lee Bardugo. I have had this on my shelf for a while now and it was really quick to read. I did really like it actually, and I would be keen to keep going with the series, but yeah, everyone knows what this is about so I won't go into too much detail, but I didn't mind it. Like, it was actually a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I did really enjoy Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. I love that series, and I just didn't know how Shadow and Bone was going to be written, especially because I'd watched the TV show as well, so I was just a bit concerned that, like, I don't know, I really did like the TV show, but I don't know, I just didn't know how I was going to feel about it. Then we've got Devil Bones by Kathy Reach, and I actually flew through this one as well. Like, for January, I read books pretty quickly. It's like kind of all I did for January, honestly, but this was, it was a bit different to the ones that I've read by her already. There were a few kind of words and phrases and stuff that I just didn't really sit right with me, but other than that I did like the storyline and the whole kind of them thinking maybe it was like some sort of demonic cult situation, sacrifice and stuff, and trying to figure out the murder and like what it's all about, because all the pieces weren't really fitting together for a while, so I was really wondering how they're all going to connect. And then, you know, just reading stuff like that's, you know, it's like, okay, it was interesting to read, but yeah, it just wasn't my favourite by her. I definitely felt a bit removed from this book a little bit because, like I said, the wording and just kind of what it was about, but you know, I kind of just took a step back and just tried to enjoy it, and it wasn't too bad. And then we've got, okay, take two. I read The Fine Print by Lauren Asher next, and it's a billionaire romance. Like, everyone knows what it is, everyone's read it, I'm sure. And you know, the main character works for I guess the love interest, and stuff happens from there, and you know, then there's the conflict and, you know, your typical kind of romance and stuff. So I didn't mind it. Like, it was pretty good. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to read the other two or not. I'm really debating whether I should read the other two, about the other two brothers in this series or not. But it wasn't too bad. Like, it was a pretty good romance, but you know, it was just kind of like, I've read quite a few romances now, and you know, seen movies with like kind of that aspect where like the guy's rich, the girl's not. There's like the whole thing there. So, you know, it wasn't too bad, but I didn't mind it. And then I read The Pain Chronicles, which this one actually a bit thick, but the writing's like pretty big, and you've got these kind of like little comic things at the start of each chapter and stuff, and it's just about Magnus Bane's life, and kind of leading up to when he meets like Clary and all that in the Mortal Instruments series, and even stuff about him and like when Tess and Will and Jem and all that in the Infernal Devices series. So you get kind of bits and pieces from those two series as well, but then you also get kind of his life story but before it as well, and just, you know, random stories about kind of his life. And yeah, some of them are a little bit funny, and some of them are like, okay, let's just get past this. But I didn't mind it at all. Like, I found it in an op shop and I thought I'd pick it up and read it. I don't know. I don't really have too much to say about it. I did find the older stories, like a bit more back in time, a lot more interesting than kind of the present day ones, because just reading about like a warlock and stuff, you know, 100, 200 years ago was a lot more interesting to me than a bit more modern day fantasies. I don't know why. For some reason in this, when I was reading this, I was just like, I kind of came to some sort of conclusion that I like fantasy novels and stuff based more in the past than in the present time. I don't know why. Like, unless I can find a book that has a fantasy um kind of aspect placed in this time period and is done really well, and I'd be down to read it. If you guys have any suggestions like that, you can let me know. But yeah, I just seem to like fantasy books and they're set way back in the day, like a couple hundred years ago, or it's a lot more. They're living in like castles or huts, or they have to go out and hunt for food, and just a lot more old-fashioned kind of stuff and things a couple hundred years ago. It just seems like there's more high stakes as well, and then they go to the castles and it's full of luxuries and things like that. So it just adds to it a bit more. But I don't know. I didn't mind that book at all. We've got Throne of Glass. So I did really like this book. I've literally got the next two books lined up on my TBR that I'm really, really keen to read when I get to them. But I actually did like this. It was a lot different to what I thought it was going to be. I kind of put it off for a while because I heard so much hype about it, and I didn't know if I wanted to read it or not. I didn't know if it was something that I wanted to read in general, and I'm glad I picked it up because I really did like it, and I can see what all the hype's about, and I'm keen to keep going through this, honestly. It's going to be good. I can already feel it. I'm going to like it. I love the Akatar series, so, I'm going to like that one too. I know for sure. Then we've got Twilight. Now, we've all heard about this, so I don't really have to go into any detail. I did annotate it because you know what? It's a classic. I thought I'll go through and just highlight or underline stuff that I found interesting, try to see how she wrote this book and stuff, because I've watched the movie so many times. With this typical girl in general watching the movies. But yeah, I didn't mind it actually. Like, it was a lot easier to read than I thought it was gonna be. It was a lot better than I thought it was gonna be compared to the movies. Bella's character is quite different. She's a bit more, I guess, like she just has so much more of a personality in this book, and Edward Cullen also has a lot more of a personality. Like, he laughs a lot more, and you can just see a different side to him in the books, and it can be a bit more intense in the books as well compared to the movies, especially like when him and Bella start to kind of get together more and their relationship deepens, and it can just become a lot. But it's very interesting to read about and just compare the themes and stuff, and just things like that. But I didn't mind it. I did like it. But that then set me up to read the rest of the series. So we've got New Moon, which I did like. I don't know. I feel like I can't remember which one it was. I think maybe this one, because we get to hear about Jacob and stuff a bit more, and you get his story and the background with the werewolves and everything, and just life without the Collins in it. It was just a lot more interesting to read about, because you're just seeing different perspectives. But I didn't mind it. It was pretty good. Like, I did like it. It was something. It was something, alright. And it also made me really on the fence about whether I liked Jacob or I liked Edward while I was reading these books too. Like, I was so on the fence for a long time because both their characters had just certain traits that, like, Bella would be better off being with them in these situations, So it was like, in the movies it was like quite obvious. I mean, I'm pretty sure I liked Edward in the movies, like when I was younger. And yeah, when I got older, I just was like, oh my god, my perspective's just been changed. I can't believe it. But, it was also good to read. Then we've got Eclipse, also pretty good. The books are getting longer at this point. So they're taking me a bit longer to read, a bit more to get into. Some parts are a little bit slower. But considering that, it does fly by very quickly. And I did like that about her writing. Like, she gets straight to the point and it's on to the next and the next and the next thing. And it just keeps going, and it does flow quite nicely. So I do appreciate that. And then I might as well just go through all these together. I read The Short Second Life of Bree Tanner. A bit different. It almost felt like I wasn't in the Twilight universe while I was reading this. It felt quite a bit different. But I actually did like it. It was just a bit of a break from reading Bella's point of view, and it was a bit nice to step back and read a bit more, and just see a bit more about what goes on in this world. and it's not all just just Edward and Jacob and Bella and those three just all the time. Like, you actually get to hear a bit more about the lore and stuff, and just see other vampires, how they're when they're born and stuff, and how they act, and then Victoria creating her army, and just that whole thing. And Riley's also very different in the book as well in that one, which I was like, he's very different in the movie compared to these, how he's described. So it was pretty good. And then I read Breaking Dawn. This was long. This took me a little while to get through, but also I was very surprised that certain things weren't in this book at the end compared to the movie. I guess they had to add to it, make it a bit longer, whatever. But yeah, it was like I expected certain things. Like, that's the only thing with watching the movies first and then reading the book is like you expect certain things to be there and they're not, and then you're like, oh, that would have been kind of cool for her to describe, but I can also see why it's not in there either. So just so many, my brain was so scrambled reading this series. It was crazy. And then I read Midnight Sun, and this took me forever because it's thick. The writing's like not too small, but pretty small, and it just, Edward's point of view was like intense. Basically wants to kill her the whole time. It's a lot. It's a lot to read, but I actually did like his point of view. To be honest, I did kind of like seeing like what was going through his head when he first met Bella, and just like you can just see his feelings are just so intense for her, and then it just gets more intense as the books go on, and then reading it from him, you're like, holy crap, like this is a lot. This is a lot. This is quite crazy to read. Like, there's something going on. I don't know if it's cool or not. And then lastly, for February, I read a Divergent collection, and it was pretty good getting back into this world. Didn't take me that long to read. Did enjoy it, and you get to see a bit more about Tobias and how he became Four and a bit of his backstory. So I did like it actually, and it almost made me want to read the Divergent series again, but I might hold off a little bit for now. But that's it. That's all the books I've read over the course of 2 months. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.